Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be playing the shortest deck in Clash Royale, and not the shortest when it comes to the height of the cards, but shortest when it comes to the words themselves. So we're playing the shortest, essentially the fewest letters in Clash Royale. So we have Zap, Rage, Void, Bats, Monk, Vines, Witch, and Giant. One 3-letter card, a few 4-letter ones, and then a few 5 as well. And as you can probably tell, this is an atrocious deck. This is not going to work because we have 4 small spells, which one would have been plenty, and we don't have much of a win condition outside of Giant and maybe Witch behind, or Monk and then Reflect and then go Bats behind and hope they don't have a Spirit or a spell. So not feeling super confident about this, but this is the shortest deck in Clash Royale, so we're going to be giving it a try. And just yesterday I had a YouTube video pop up on my recommended feed that I watched because it seemed interesting, and I had listened to the documentary or the story beforehand, but it was a VR walkthrough or experience of the Nutty Putty Caves. And if you've heard the story, great. If not, I'll give you a brief refresher. In 2009, so 16 years ago, a cave diver went in there with his brother, and these caves were known for being relatively safe. Like, it wasn't a super high skill cave that was only for professionals. I mean, Boy Scouts sometimes went in there for troop activities, and it was open for recreational use, so it's not like you needed to be a professional to go in there. And this is an unfortunate situation. So it was known for being a relatively safe cave, and John Jones was the guy's name. He went there with his brother and I think another group of friends, and he was a fairly experienced cave diver, so this wasn't like a huge adventure or a huge challenge for him. He was fairly familiar with caves, and as they were diving there, he ended up taking a wrong turn. He was supposed to go right into a place called the Birth Canal, which is called that, as you can probably guess, because it feels like you're being born. It's such a tight space that it feels like a birth canal as far as you're just being squeezed through. I don't know how wide it is, but I think it's a little over a foot wide. So as you can imagine, it's just enough space for you to kind of get on your belly and then shimmy your way through. So not a whole lot of space. But he was supposed to go right in that direction, but instead he took a left. And keep in mind, there wasn't any kind of warning sign or something that says, don't go this way. It was a fairly, it was just a tunnel that went off to the left. I don't think there were any warnings. And so he ended up taking a wrong turn, and he thought that it would open up to a bigger cavern, because if he did go right to the Birth Canal, it would end up opening into a place called the Big, terrible vines, by the way. It would end up opening up into a place called the Big Room, which is a place where you can actually stand up. It's fairly open, and so he was expecting it to open up at some point, but because he took a wrong turn, it didn't, and he kept kind of shimmying his way down. The cave kind of ended up sloping, and he ended up getting into a dead end, and this dead end was very steep. It was at a 70-degree angle, so you can imagine almost vertical, and it was such a tight space that it was 10 by 18 inches, so it was so tight that he couldn't even move his arms. His arms were stuck at his side, and he was at almost a vertical angle, so you can imagine how terrible that would be. You're completely stuck, you're almost upside down, and you're in such a tight space. It's essentially like being in your own coffin. He essentially crawled into his own coffin. and he was there for 27 hours. Rescuers tried to save him, but because of the precariousness of the situation, he couldn't. They couldn't construct a pulley system to get him out because it was just such a tight space, and his body wouldn't bend backwards out of the tunnel. And so, I think we're just gonna have to resort to spell cycling and hoping that it does something here. But anyway, it just sounds like one of the most excruciating ways to die, because you're essentially upside down, you can't move, you can't eat or drink. And if you've ever been upside down for any amount of time, maybe you've hung off the monkey bars, maybe you've kind of laid upside down and hung off your bed a little bit, you know that blood rushes to your head when you're upside down, and it's pretty uncomfortable. And this guy was like in a position like that for 27 hours, and he ended up slowly dying of cardiac arrest, because your body isn't designed to work upside down, so your heart essentially has to work overtime to pump blood up to your legs, and it eventually just ends up failing. And so anyway, this experienced diver went into what was known to be a relatively safe cave and ended up dying a pretty excruciating death. And as the walkthrough was kind of going through, and you kind of saw the VR of the cave, which was really realistic, by the way, because they worked with actual cave divers who had been in that cave to kind of get everything just right, and to kind of make sure the water was glistening on the rocks the right way, and just to make sure everything was as realistic as could be. As I was kind of watching the video of the walkthrough and what was going on, the only thing I could think of was, like, how stupid do you have to be in order to do something like this? Because it showed the point of view of going through the birth canal and going through these areas that were so tight. And I was just thinking, who would want to do this with their free time? Like, you could choose to do anything with your day, and yet you choose to go into a cave hundreds of feet under the ground, which is completely dark, and shimmy your way into places that you may not be able to get out of, and if you don't get out of them, then you're going to die a very slow, painful death. And I guess I didn't understand what the thrill or what the excitement was and why people would ever do this. But John Jones, the guy who got stuck there, and many other people really enjoyed cave diving. They really found they were really passionate about it. They really enjoyed doing it, which is just something that I will never be able to understand. And it kind of made me realize that there are going to be people that are into all sorts of things. People are going to have all sorts of different hobbies and interests, and many people are probably going to think that whatever you're into is completely dumb and stupid, just like myself and probably many others think that cave diving is the worst thing that you can choose to do with your time. But these guys were really into it, and there is somewhat of a use for it in the real world. I mean, there are experienced cave divers who rescue others in caves. There's the whole the Thailand cave rescue, where these experienced cave divers went in and saved people who were trapped in the cave. And there's, I'm sure, other mining other industrial uses for being an experienced cave diver. And so, as stupid as I think this guy's using graveyard, by the way, so we probably have to be careful of that. Are you kidding me? I think I put the witch into the rocket. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is there are people that are into all sorts of things. And so you may be into a hobby, or you may be into something that you really like and that you feel gives you purpose, but it may be something that other people scoff at, or something that other people think is incredibly stupid. But if it gives you passion, if it's something that really gets you going and that you feel gives you purpose, then then pursue it, because you shouldn't let what other people think and what other people think is you know cool or not dictate what you do with your life. So if you have a hobby, maybe you're a guy, and maybe you're passionate about croqueting, which is something that a lot of people might scoff at. But if it's what gives you purpose, if it's what you like doing, then do it. Don't let what other people think dictate what you choose to do. Also, let's see if we can finesse him. Please. Oh, it's not going to be in time. All right. Well, this is just an L, but I guess that's what I learned from watching that video, is that there is going to be things that people are passionate about and that people like doing that other people are just going to completely hate and that they're not going to understand. But if it's something you're passionate about, if it's something that you want to pursue, then go for it, because it's important to do something that really gets you going and that really gives you purpose. Unless that thing is cave diving, then don't ever do that. No, I'm just kidding. But probably don't take a wrong turn in a cave. That's probably some good advice. And I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next video.